I'll never forget sitting in a master class when I was back in school with a very well-known jazz saxophone player and keyboardist. As the two were warming up, the sax player leaned back and asked the keyboard player if he knew the tune Along Came Betty, and the keyboard player, fumbling around through his warm-up, said something like, yeah, what key do you play it in? It was all very natural, very spontaneous, the type of thing that all of us have seen in jam sessions in the past. The two then whipped into one of the most amazing performances that I had ever seen in my life up to that point. And all of the attendees of that class, kids from the jazz department and one weirdo cellist, were completely amazed. I became such a fan, in fact, of this horn player that a couple weeks later, while checking out some of his other recordings in the school music library, yes, I'm that old, I noticed that this guy had recorded Along Came Betty many times in the past. And not only had he recorded it a bunch, both live and in the studio, but he'd recorded it with the same piano player that I had heard him play with in the master class. It was almost like one of their go-to tunes. Now, I get it. As artists, we're all trying to put our best foot forward and maybe not show our process so much with the audience. It makes sense. But in so many ways, this is a massive disservice to young musicians and music students out there because it obscures the most important aspect of making music, that you can't skip over your first 10 performances of a piece. You have to be willing to get in the ring, be vulnerable, take chances, and sound bad. Now, as a classical kid growing up, I would prepare a new concerto, a new sonata to get ready for that season's Christmas recital or competition. And then after that, it was rinse, wash, repeat with an all-new set of repertoire, scales, etudes, etc. In fact, I never really got to experience this until my first tour, or the first time I got to work with a theater production, where the first 10 performances were just run-out concerts. Those were really the first times for me where I got to experience the freedom of the 10th, the 20th performance. And thinking back, it would have meant so much to me and the other people that were watching that masterclass if the horn player would have said something like, hey, we're going to play a piece that we've been not only practicing, but performing for the last 20 years. That would have cast that performance in an entirely different light of like, hey, this is what the process can lead to. And being able to play something this good and this deep takes a lifelong commitment to these tunes. Not getting bored or moving on to try to catch the next virtuoso we saw on YouTube, but to really run our own race. So as we enter this new season, my New Year's wish for all of you guys is to run your own race, be vulnerable, be willing to take chances, and just remember, as my friend Christian Howe says, it's the gig that makes you ready for the gig. If you're a cellist and want to come hang out for a free lesson where I'll be in process and probably playing some really bad notes on occasion, I'd love to have you. You can just click the link below and I'll see you backstage.